So you're probably wondering how I made these guys, but before we can talk about how I made them, we need to talk about how I made these guys, Ari and Bert. So you guys probably know that the Take-Along Ari and Bert aren't the best looking toys. Their red running boards just look ugly. But when Take and Play came along, they revamped them with these black running boards and molded side rods, which just look amazing. But their faces were the CGI ones. So I had to change that. The superior faces were on the inferior bodies of the Take-Along Ari and Bert. So I had to change that. But there was one problem. The Take-Along Ari and Bert have rivets at the bottom instead of screws. These ones, the Take and Play, have screws. You can see in there, so you could just unscrew it. Simple as that. So I took a power drill and I drilled into their bodies, as you can see here, to get to the faces. It's not the prettiest job, but it'll do. So I got the faces off, put them on my Ari and Bert. But now I just had 2 spare bodies left over. So what did I do? I made Splatter and Dodge. Now that I had the spare Ari and Bert bodies, I could make Splatter and Dodge in die-cast, which Take-Along and Take and Play never made. Only Ertl made them, which had the painted on faces that chip very easily. For the all die-cast Ari and Bert models, aside from Ertl, their little front yellow grill pieces were separate pieces you could slide out, which made it easier to paint. For Dodge, it just slid out pretty easily, but for Splatter, that thing was jammed in there. I tried to get it out, but I just couldn't, so I had to paint around it. And painting these things was a nightmare. They were surprisingly difficult to paint. With the Take and Play Ari and Bert, every yellow piece is separate from the green pieces. But for the Take-Along Ari and Bert, it's all one piece separately painted. So I had to painstakingly go and paint out each individual little detail. As you can see, some of it's still kind of messy. I had to paint the fronts of the little vents here gray because they just would look really ugly because it would splat onto the actual body. Same thing with this little thing back here next to the big vent. It was just painful, especially on Splatter. On Splatter, the purple paint pen would just rub off. It would rub off the yellow, and it would just look ugly. Every time, you can still see the yellow poking through because the paint pen just sucked. The green paint pen was fine, you see? It looks nice, you don't see a lot of yellow poking through. The purple paint pen was awful. Awful, awful, awful. It was just, it would rub off at the slightest touch, even if it had dried for hours. The gray paint pen was alright. The green one was the best. But, you can see, I had ended up getting some on the windows. And even, it was just awful to paint Splatter. So when the painting was finally done, I could seal it with Mod Podge. Now this stuff is great. It makes everything nice and waterproof. It's resistant to chipping. So I put a coat on Dodge. It was great. This is the only coat I had to put on him. He's nice and smooth. But Splatter. Remember what I said about the purple paint pen less than like a minute ago? Every time I put on a coat of Mod Podge, it would smear and rub off. And to the point where most of his gray on his body was now blue. Of course I didn't take a picture of it because that's just, no. So once I put on the first coat, I went over it with the paint pen again, purple and gray. And then I waited like 2 days for it to dry. So I then put another coat of Mod Podge over that. And it worked. Not the best, but it worked. You can still see. yellow poking through, and you can maybe still see some of the gross blue poking through. But I was finally done. So am I happy with these customs? Yeah, they turned out actually pretty good. For my first, actual custom that isn't like 3D printed. I'm pretty happy how they turned out. Of course, I had to put some black on the ugly red running board, and I had to glue these things back together. So yeah.